I thought I could talk about my relationship to boats and open water. Well, one of my earliest memories of boats and open water was as a kid. I walked down to the bay waterfront here in Berkeley and took some driftwood and some scrap lumber and some pallets and tied them all together and went out probably knee deep in the bay. But that was my first boat, which makes me realize that my parents gave me a lot of leeway when I was a kid. On weekends, the only thing they asked was that I come home for dinner. And they didn't care where else. I could go anywhere in the city, and I usually did. My next recollection is when I was in high school, I joined the Sea Scouts. And they had a working boat down at the Berkeley Marina, and I guess we had weekly meetings or monthly meetings, I don't remember. But that was a good formal start to boating. One of the things we did is we had whaleboat races. All of the other Sea Scout boats around in the area would get together and have whaleboat races. And I didn't realize it, but that was going to have an influence on my Navy experience. When I was in high school, I also joined the Navy Reserve, and shortly after graduating from high school, I went on active duty in the Navy. I remember taking the train from San Francisco to San Diego to report to boot camp, and sitting next to me was another guy going to boot camp. And as we traveled south, he looked out the window and he says, "Is that the ocean?" And I says, "Yeah, that's the ocean." He says, "I've never seen the ocean before." And then my realization at that point was that I was going to be much more experienced than some of the other people in boot camp, because this guy hadn't even seen the ocean before. Well, anyway, during boot camp, they had whaleboat races. And because I was an experienced whaleboat racer, they put me as a coxswain of one of the boats. Our company, I think we raced once a week. And our company did very, very well. We won almost all of our races. We just couldn't lose, except for the last day of boot camp, the last week of whaleboat races. We lost terribly. We were way behind. And my conclusion was that they either put a sea anchor on our boat or tied a bucket to the boat so we couldn't go, just to teach us a lesson that we couldn't win every race. I guess boot camp is another set of stories, but after boot camp, I was sent to submarine school in Groton, Connecticut. Oh, I think I did a clever thing. Our boot camp ended right at Christmas. Let's see, that would have been Christmas of '52. And everybody went home on leave, except me. I decided that I would stay at boot camp while everyone else was gone. There was nothing to do. I had 2 weeks off at the boot camp in San Diego. There was no drills, there was no classes, there was just 2 weeks of free time. Then when everybody came back and were sent off to their next assignment, I took 2 weeks leave. So I had 4 weeks off and everybody else only had 2 weeks off. Being sent to sub school was interesting because it was my first time on an airplane. The airplane was a Super Connie, I think they called it. 4-engine prop plane it had the 2 rudders in back. Very streamlined design. That was my first flight. Reported to submarine school, and I kind of liked submarine school. There was a lot of interesting things going on. A lot of physics lessons. What does a cubic foot of water weigh? Fresh water, 65 pounds. Salt water, 67 pounds. And how does a submarine work? One of the highlights of sub school was the 100-foot free ascent. They had a great big 100-foot tower full of water, and you could go into the bottom into a sealed chamber, and then they filled it with water and then opened up the door inside, and then you would go up that 100 feet to practice the escape technique with we had what was called a Munson lung. It was just a canvas bag that you could breathe in and out of, but it adjusted the pressure as you went up. After sub school, I was assigned to a submarine in San Diego Bay, and that was a miserable situation. It was the Bluegill, USS Bluegill, and we lived on the boat, anchored, well, not anchored, but tied up alongside the supply ship. But living on a submarine is not a comfortable thing to do. If you wanted to go ashore, you had to go onto the supply ship, then onto a tender and into town. On the first opportunity, there came an opening to go transfer to the Perch, USS Perch, because it was going up to the San Francisco Bay Area for decommissioning. And so that was my way of getting off of the Bluegill. From there, I was transferred to the USS Sabalo in Pearl Harbor. And I've already told the story about dropping my duffel bag on my friend Denny Hull. But submarine duty at Pearl Harbor in those years was very, very comfortable. We had a very nice barracks to live in, a great cafeteria. Submariners were issued a little card, which was called a Liberty Pass, and you kept it with you all the time. Other sailors and other ships were only given their Liberty Pass when it was time to go ashore or to go on leave. But we kept our Liberty Pass with us all the time, so we could leave the base anytime we wanted to if you weren't on duty. And duty consisted of going out almost every morning, leaving the dock, going out into the ocean, and practicing whatever it was that was important at that day. The Sabalo at that time was a mine-laying submarine, so we did a lot of practicing of laying mines. I was the lowest ranking sailor on board, having just come from sub school and a few months on the other boat. And in those days, the tradition was the lowest ranking sailor was given the chore of cleaning the toilets of the submarine, cleaning the heads. And I was given that assignment. And after a few weeks, the chief of the boat came to me and he says, Gary, what are you doing? And I says, well, you told me to clean the heads. I'm cleaning the heads. He says, nobody's ever done that before. They would have the assignment where they'd just go through the motions. They wouldn't really clean. And you're really cleaning. And I says, well, I learned from my parents, if you're given a job, you do it. And he says, I want to make you a deal. He says, when the next lowest ranking guy gets on board, I want you to stay at this job, and he will be working for you. And the two of you will be cleaning heads. And if you do that, then I'll take you off all your other assignments. I said, boy, that's a good deal. I'll do that. So Pretty soon I had one guy working for me, cleaning the heads. I'm still just a seaman third class. No, seaman, yeah, seaman second class, I guess it was. When that worked out so well, the chief of the boat says, hey, look, we've got another new guy coming aboard. How about the two of those guys work for you? They'll work for you. They'll have other assignments, but they'll have to clean the toilets with you. And you will still not have. So I had two guys working for me. And that was a good deal because I didn't have any other assignments. We went to dry dock once for repairs, normal repairs. And everybody was issued a workman's protective helmet. And I don't know how the word got out, but the chief of the boat came to me and says, Gary, I understand you can do lettering. I want you to put the letter CO on the commanding officer's helmet, CO, and XO on the executive officer's helmet. So I got pen and ink and I lettered the helmets. And to this day, I still don't know how he picked me to do that. But having the ink and pen, I took my own helmet and I drew a picture of a toilet and toilet paper and a toilet brush, and I put that on my helmet. Chief, captain of the head. And he saw that and he says, no, you're not captain of anything. You take that off. But I thought that was an interesting experiment. It was a good life. Comfortable. There was cleaning facilities, dry cleaners nearby. Had liberty every night. In my second, or in the end of my year there, a friend of ours, Jackie Hinton, she was a neighbor that I grew up with. She was at Fresno State College. She and a couple of her friends came to Hawaii for a vacation. And I thought, oh boy, this is great. I'm going to have my first experience with a woman. But it didn't turn out like that. A friend of mine on the boat bought a car while he was there in Hawaii. And so every weekend I would go with him, and we went, our favorite spot was Hanauma Bay. It was on the coast of Oahu near Diamond Head. And it was a volcanic opening, almost a perfect circle, but a part of it had broken open so the ocean could come in. So it was a round bay, and we went snorkeling almost every weekend. That was a good life. We had what was called a Hawaiian sling. It was a hollow piece of wood with elastic on it, and you had a metal rod. So you put the metal rod in the hollow tube and then stretch the elastic out and then held it. And then when you came to a fish, you just let go and it would shoot the barb into the fish. I think the biggest fish I ever got was probably this big. And I'm not sure why we enjoyed killing the little fish, but that was what we did. One thing I enjoyed about that assignment was that I became friends with several guys on the boat who liked to sit and talk about interesting things, philosophy or science or whatever was the subject of the day. We would sit around in a group and talk. And I realized at that point that I was capable of carrying on an intelligent conversation. Oh, which reminds me, when I went to boot camp, in the first week they give you a battery of tests to see who can stay in the Navy and who has to go home. But after the battery of tests, one of the officials came to me and says, Gary, you've done so well that we want to give you 5 more tests. And if you pass all 5, we'll give you credit for 2 years of college and put you in officer candidate school. And I thought, oh, you got the wrong guy. Because in high school, I had terrible grades. I thought I wasn't bright. And this test results surprised the hell out of me. Well, I took the 5 tests. I only passed 3, but it was the beginning of the realization that I wasn't retarded. I was of average or above average intelligence, and that was a real revelation for me. And then that was kind of confirmed by my being in this group of friends on the boat. I can remember I had loaned one of the guys on the boat $10. That must have been a lot of money at the time. Because when I was getting ready to be sent back home to get my discharge, I went to him and asked for my $10, and he says, no, I don't have it. And I meant I was going to lose $10. I was going to have to go home. So I told one of the guys in this group of friends I had that he wouldn't pay me. So he went to this guy. And I don't know what he told him, but the guy paid me my $10 right away. I can remember we had a discussion. A couple of us were getting discharged at the same time. And we thought, well, instead of taking the plane or the boat back to the United States, what it would if we got a sailboat and just sailed west. We would hit somewhere between Canada and Mexico. That would be a real adventure. Of course, I didn't do that, but it was one of our intellectual discussions. Could it be done? Oh, thinking about getting discharged too. Our boat was getting ready to do what they called the Japan cruise. The boat was going to go to Japan. And all of my friends were telling me, oh man, you're going to love this. The Gishi girls and the sake and going out every night. And it's a great opportunity. And I said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I was going to have to extend a few months while we did the Japan cruise. So I was ready to go to Japan instead of getting discharged. But then I noticed we're in Hawaii. It's a tropical climate. They're bringing in wool face masks and wool blankets and heavy-duty jackets and heavy-duty pants. I says, what in the world is this? And they says, oh, well, in the Japan cruise, we spend 3 weeks in the Siberian Sea and then 3 days in Japan. And 3 weeks in the Siberian. I says, never mind, I don't. So I got out a month early so I could register for school. So I came home, got my discharge, and signed up for West Contra Costa Junior College. And that was an interesting experience because I was one of the oldest guys in class and had a little more authority or esteem. And I met my future wife, who is working nearby.